Thank you very much, Arnab. It is indeed a pleasure to be part of your webinar. Honorable Mr. Suresh Prabhu, the former minister and currently the Sherpa to G20 and G7, Commander Arnab Das, eminent panelists, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a distinct honor for me to be present here today to share my thoughts with all of you on the challenges and opportunities in the Indo Pacific region. The term Indo Pacific has moved decisively from its origins in biogeography to the realities of geopolitics. And today, the Indo Pacific, which is essentially a confluence of two oceans, has emerged as the world's strategic and economic center of gravity in the maritime domain. India's primary area of interest in the maritime domain is the Indian Ocean region, and the secondary area of interest extends across the waters of the Indo-Pacific. India's views on the Indo-Pacific have been spelled out by the Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, when he described the bounds as extending from the shores of Africa to those of the Americas. And the Honorable Prime Minister also added that India's engagement in the Indo-Pacific would be inclusive. I will now highlight some of the challenges and opportunities in the Indo-Pacific and also outline some of the specific recommendations to chart the way ahead for a safe, secure, stable, and sustainable Indo-Pacific. The instabilities and turbulence on land in some parts of the Indo-Pacific, along with issues such as sovereignty, territorial integrity, freedom of navigation, and control of resources, have a potential to spill over into the maritime domain. And the situation can best be described as fragile. Consequently, over 120 warships from nearly 20 navies are always present in the Indian Ocean to safeguard their maritime interests. In addition, naval assets are regularly deployed in the South China Sea to ensure freedom of navigation. India has advocated adherence to international law, and it is recommended that India, along with the countries of the region, work together to evolve a common rules-based international order to ensure freedom of navigation, as well as equal access and rights under the international law to the global commons. The waters of the Indo-Pacific have emerged as global economic highways, and the maritime interests of the countries of the region are intrinsically linked to unfettered flow of oil and trade across the region. About 120,000 ships transit the Indian Ocean every year, carrying 66% of the world's oil, 50% of the world's container traffic, and 33% of the world's cargo traffic. And about 1 billion tons of oil transits the ocean every year. And these oil arteries and trade routes lead further east to the ASEAN and countries such as Japan, South Korea, and China. Another unique feature of the Indian Ocean is that 80% of the oil and trade that emanates in the Indian Ocean is extra-regional in nature. This implies that if there is any impediment to the free flow of oil or trade, it would have a detrimental impact, not just on the economies of the region, but the global economy as well. Safety, security, and stability is therefore of paramount importance on the waters of the Indo-Pacific, and it is recommended that networking between navies and maritime partnerships between the countries of the region need to be strengthened on priority in the coming years. In order to examine the options and to promote maritime cooperation between the countries of the Indo-Pacific, we would have to look at the connectivity options as well as the existing structures. As far as the connectivity options are concerned, in addition to the Belt and Road Initiative, which was mentioned by Captain Bansal, we have a bouquet of options. We have the International North-South Transport Corridor. We have the Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, Project MOSM, which is an initiative taken by India for connectivity between people and cultures. We have the strategy for free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific. And we have the concept of SAGAR, which is the acronym, which is for security and growth for all in the region, and is the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi. As far as the existing structures are concerned, we find them at three levels in the Indian Ocean. At the conceptual level, we have the concept of SAGAR. At the political level, we have the Indian Ocean Rim Association, which was established in 1997. And around 2012, maritime safety and security was added to the agenda of the IORA for promoting cooperation among the countries of the region. At the execution level of the navies, we have the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, which is a unique initiative taken by the Indian Navy in 2008. And today it provides a template for promoting maritime security cooperation between navies of the region. Similarly, in the Indo-Pacific at the conceptual level, we could consider the strategy for free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific. At the political level, we have the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, or the Quad construct. And at the execution level of the navies, we need to formalize the cooperation arrangement between the navies of the Quad countries. It is recommended that we have greater interaction between the existing structures, the navies and the maritime forces, so as to pursue the connectivity options optimally, as well as to provide synergy for maritime cooperation across the Indo-Pacific. In order to fully implement the Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi's vision of SAGAR, or security and growth for all in the region, we need to draw up a comprehensive maritime cooperation roadmap with other countries in the region, and this must be with a whole of government approach. The aim would be to look at further avenues of maritime cooperation, at the same time to provide safety and security, and also to shape a favorable maritime environment across the Indo-Pacific. The waters of the Indo-Pacific are global economic highways, but the seas are no longer a benign medium, and globalization has resulted in vulnerability of the oceans. The threats and challenges on the waters of the Indo-Pacific are as wide and varied as they come, and these range from piracy to maritime terrorism, arms trafficking, drug smuggling, human trafficking, and poaching or IUU fishing. To tackle and take on these threats and challenges, the maritime forces and the navies need to have an effective information sharing arrangement to enhance the maritime domain awareness right across the Indo-Pacific. India has leveraged technology, and we launched the Naval Communications Satellite Rukmini in 2013. In addition, we set up an extensive NC3I network by linking up the automatic identification system chain, the coastal radar station, and 51 stations of the Navy and the Coast Guard were integrated into the Information Management and Analysis Center, IMAC, which was set up by the Indian Navy in 2014. In addition, the Indian Navy has set up the Information Fusion Center in 2018. The navies, as well as the maritime forces, need to therefore cooperate and exchange information, particularly the white shipping information, so as to enhance the maritime domain awareness across the Indo Pacific region. We also need to extend the maritime domain awareness in the underwater dimension, and we need to look at the feasibility of cooperation between the navies, particularly the navies of the Quad countries, to enhance the underwater domain awareness. And we could look at one of the feasibilities of linking into the fishhook sound surveillance or the SOSUS network. This would be particularly applicable around the or in the vicinity of the island chains and at the choke points to the Indian Ocean. Another area where the navies and their hydrographic assets could interact and cooperate for the underwater mapping is that of marine spatial planning. There is a need for effective mapping of our coastal areas as well as the exclusive economic zone so as to prevent development of what we may call offshore ocean slums. And we need to effectively map and carry out the underwater mapping of all these areas, including the deep seabed mining areas, of which India has been allocated a sizable portion in the central Indian Ocean. And the aim would be that we can optimally exploit these by cooperation with other countries for harnessing the blue economy. The waters of the Indo-Pacific are also an area where the challenge includes that the indiscriminate pollution of the oceans has had a detrimental impact of climate change on the oceans. Consequently, a large percentage of extreme climate conditions turn into natural disasters. And this is where the navies and maritime forces in the region need to cooperate so as to provide humanitarian assistance and disaster relief to the countries in the aftermath of tsunamis as well as the cyclones. The United Nations document Transforming Our World 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goal SDG 14 provide a template for conservation of oceans, seas, and resources. It is recommended that India once again takes the lead along with other countries of the region to draw up a perspective plan to counter the ill effects of climate change, to look at sustainable development of the oceans, and also have a cooperation mechanism with other countries of the region to harness the blue economy. One of the areas where pollution has impacted is a sort of impact on the natural marine habitat. And studies have indicated that 80% of all pollutants in the oceans emanate from land. And if the current rate of pollution continues, in a few decades from now, we will have more plastic in the ocean than fish. The Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, has launched a dynamic initiative of Swachh Bharat or Clean India. We need to extend this initiative to Swachh Sagar or Clean Oceans. India definitely needs to take the lead along with other countries in the region to draw up an action plan for clean and healthy oceans for the future generations. The seas around us are gaining newfound importance as each day goes by, and I have no doubt that the current century is the century of the seas. The countries of the Indo-Pacific region are essentially maritime in nature, with a natural outflow towards the seas. They have vast maritime interests, and the responsibility of protecting these interests falls squarely on the shoulders of men in white uniform, because it is the responsibility of the navies and the coast guards to ensure that these maritime interests, which have a vital relationship with the region's economic growth, are allowed to develop unhindered at all times. Maritime security is an enabler of the blue economy. However, no single navy in the world is robust enough to provide safety, and security to the entire global commons. The maritime nations, the navies, and maritime forces will therefore have to work together to ensure and provide for a safe, secure, stable, and sustainable Indo Pacific region in the future. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.